Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 1974 film directed by Tobe Hooper that started a franchise that was at one point in time very controversial, that was banned in some countries, despite not actually being very violent. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre just has a feel to it. The gore in the film is surprisingly minimal despite its reputation. If you've never seen this film, you probably think it's a very violent movie where a bunch of people are cut up with a chainsaw, but that really doesn't happen all that much. In fact, Tobe Hooper actually wanted to go for a PG rating. He was really hoping he could get that PG. No matter what he did, all the cuts he attempted, it always got an R. And since the violence in the movie is mostly suggested and not usually seen in grotesque up-close detail, the fact that it got that R rating back in the 70s is entirely because it's really fucking terrifying. The film had an opening crawl that attempted to make us think this was based off a true story when it really isn't. It was sort of inspired in a way by a serial killer, but in no way is this film based on true events. It follows a group of young teenagers who are traveling in a van. They encounter some curious characters in Texas before eventually running into Leatherface himself and a big fucking chainsaw. The first time I saw this film, I actually hated it. I didn't get it. I just wasn't really ready for it yet. I was expecting something more along the lines of a Friday the 13th or a Halloween, a film that is very violent and a lot of people die, but it's kind of fun. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre cannot really be described as fun. This movie is very unsettling, and it wants to gross you out in almost every scene. This is one of the few films that I can't eat while watching. I will watch the nastiest, most disgusting things in a movie and be eating popcorn or a sandwich or something. Can't do it with this film. It makes you feel like you're in a slaughterhouse. And I remember after the first time I saw it, I was like, all right, I guess it's just one of those movies I don't get. Okay, it happens. Sometimes you watch a film that everyone says is great, and it's just not for you. Then, for some reason, I just kept wanting to watch the movie again and again. And eventually, I have really come to respect this movie. So much of it has to do with the fact that it is super low budget. They did not have a lot of money at their disposal, and so they reused a lot of clothing. Characters wore the same things over and over again. They filmed this over a horrific heat wave in Texas. The actors who partook in the climactic dinner scene were losing their minds. Everyone wanted to kill each other. They were stuck in this house with this rotting food under these hot lights, wearing the same clothes day in and day out with this insane heat wave. And you can feel every bit of that on the screen. This movie truly is very horrifying. The characters in the film, though, I will say, are really bad. The characters suck. The people in the movie are just objects. The only reason I know any of their names is because for a large portion of the movie, they shout each other's names into the woods when their friends go missing. This film is nothing but an exercise in tension. Grotesque, looming, filthy tension, and on that account, the film works extremely well. It's a very frightening movie. You constantly feel on edge. When characters die in this film, it doesn't have that, oh, they're just actors sensibility to it. There's something very disturbing and raw about the film, and a lot of it has to do with its lower budget. That 16 millimeter look, which is beautiful, by the way, really adds a grime to the movie, this grit, this sort of dirty texture to everything that makes it really feel like it's happening. Some people call this documentary style, but there's a lot of great dolly shots and movement that, that they're not in documentaries, so I don't really go for that, but it definitely looks like he's documenting things that are happening. And it's funny because none of the sequels that had more money were ever able to replicate the success of this film, because this film's success is so wrapped up in the fact that they didn't have any money. And even though I don't really care about any of the film's characters, and most of them are just bodies that are going to be disposed of in horrifying ways, the film still works because of all the things I just mentioned. That movie has a sensibility to it that a lot of horror movies don't have, and it is an added sense of realism. And the close-ups of her eyes during the dinner scene are fucking terrifying. And of course, all this builds to one of the most iconic endings in horror history. It's a sequence that is so simple, but the lack of music and the almost 15 straight minutes of screaming, and the fact that it just cuts to black with no musical accompaniment. Texas Chainsaw Massacre achieved something in horror that very few films did, and I'm going to give it an A-. If this film had more money and it was a bigger studio film, I would probably be harder on it. But I understand that what they were going for was just an exercise in tension. And they really fucking pulled it off. Characters, though, are terrible. Like, there's nobody in this film except for Leatherface that is going to be iconic in regards to horror. But besides that, the movie really fucking works. And if you've ever seen the film, maybe you were too young or something and you didn't appreciate it, maybe try watching it again now and just view it from that lens because, damn, it's fucking good. And I'm almost ashamed that I didn't like it the first time I saw it. I think maybe part of it was because I started watching the movie while eating a sandwich. And I remember holding my sandwich. As soon as the first hitchhiker shows up, I was holding my sandwich like, this was a fucking mistake. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews coming to you very soon in the 8th annual Halloween special. As always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.